Hey, I'm Daniel Dekay, and welcome back to BangerTV. Today, I am chatting with Kris Esfandiari, the multi-talented artist behind King Woman. We will be chatting about the intensely deep and personal themes on her new album, Celestial Blues, some dangerous music video shoots, and why you should never sweat the haters. I think that you might be the most busiest and most diverse artist I've ever interviewed on Banger. I feel like we could do probably like 2.5 hours just about all the stuff you've done. But let's reel it in today. Let's focus on King Woman, second full-length record coming out, Celestial Blues. Let's just really dive in on that today. I know that it's been done since December 2019. Does sitting on a record for that long, especially through a pandemic, kind of change your perspective on anything about it, or does it make you want to change anything?
You know, with this one, no, I don't. I just didn't feel pressed to rush the process of releasing it. When I finished it, it was very emotional. I was just like sobbing in the back seat, and my drummer kept like looking over, like, "Are you okay, Kris?" Like when we were done recording, I was super emotional, and after that process, I was just like, I'm not going to rush releasing this album. It's really special. So yeah, I feel like it came out when it was meant to, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to it right now, and it still feels fresh to me for some reason. Normally I kind of hate, like I'll write something and then I'm like, I hate it, never want to hear it again, but I still love this album.
I like to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the process that went into the record, both writing and recording. Can you talk to me a little bit about the differences between collaborative writing in a band setting for King Woman versus when you create something and perform something completely on your own?
I think I'm definitely a control freak when it comes to music, so I'm overseeing everything. I'm very particular, which I think is good. I mean, if you have like too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen, it's kind of chaotic and it's a weird dynamic. So I think, you know, there should be one person that kind of holds the vision of what's going on. But the process, you know, I usually arrange everything, and I'll just like kind of riff back and forth with Joey and Pete on ideas and say, okay, play this, okay, do this twice, do this, just arranging everything how I want it to sound. And then we'll just kind of jam it live, and that's kind of when the lyrics come into play. So yeah, it was cool. It was a cool process this time. It wasn't as stressful as a lot of other experiences I've had in the studio, because I really hate being in the studio, to be honest. It stresses me the fuck out because I am a perfectionist. So it's a little bit difficult for me.
I think that's one of the biggest divides with musicians is like some people live for the studio and like love that part of the process and hate going on the road. And then there's the flip side of it. Some people like, let's get the studio session over with so we can go on tour for a year and a half.
Like, I'm just like so nitpicky, and I was just raised to be that way. My dad used to sit me down. He was obsessed with music, and he's like really, he's an engineer, and he would sit me down on the couch and like make me close my eyes and listen to like old classic rock records. And I just have a very particular ear, I guess. And I think it's a blessing, but I'm trying to find ways to cope with my stress in the studio and figure out a way that works for me. I still get nervous about tracking vocals. Like, I get so embarrassed when people are listening to me sing. I'm like, leave the room. And I've been doing this for so long, that's pretty ridiculous, you know?
I mean, I think that it just goes to show that we're all human, and we're all very critical of our own work, you know, when we need to be.
Totally.
You've always been pretty open about your religious upbringing. You know, you've always talked about how it's affected the art you've created. But this time around, I want to ask about how a poem by John Milton helped you find a new peace with religion and how it affected the themes on this record.
I had all these puzzle pieces and I didn't really know how they were fitting together. I'm like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing, but I need that final piece that's going to make this record click for me. And I was gifted an old copy of Paradise Lost. And when I got it and started flipping through the pages, something just clicked. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. I get it now. Like, I'm still processing what exactly I was trying to do. But, you know, starting with The Morning Star, which is partially about Lucifer, and it's kind of Lucifer telling their side of the story. And then there are a few songs about like the death and resurrection of Christ, and they all have double meanings because they all relate back to something in my life. Sometimes when you're working on music, the universe or whatever breathes life on a specific topic, and you're just kind of like, oh, there's something here, and I'm gonna go with this and see what this is all about.
You said that, you know, a lot of things have double meanings.
Yeah.
And I know that you've always written from a very honest place and from your past experiences. I'm wondering what some of those thinly veiled double meanings might be. What are some of the other themes on this record aside from what you're just reading on the surface, which is the, these religious themes?
Well, I mean, celestial blues overall, it's like, it's an angelic being with their wings ripped out. So you feel like part of you is this beautiful divine being and you're stuck on this fucked up planet, prison planet of suffering and darkness. And though it's an image of like Lucifer with their wings ripped out, it also represents me as like a divine being that feels like there's so much magic within me, but there are times where I feel just kind of powerless and isolated on this planet. And I kind of feel like, why the fuck am I here? And, a kind of this menacing character that has been through so much and basically went through hell and descended into hell and came out kind of this strange, crooked, but magnificent character, and it's kind of relates back to the things that I've been through in the past few years that, I can't really talk about in an interview, but that really almost destroyed me. And I'm still standing and I'm still here. And I watched that video and I'm like, wow, I'm so beautiful and amazing. This is so incredible that I created this. It's so magnificent. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, there's something so fucked up about this and dark. And like, it's like you want to watch it, but you're just kind of like, it's a little bit, there's something a little bit unsettling about it. And that's kind of how I feel internally after the things that I went through the past few years.
Well, let's talk about the unsettling nature then of those videos. They are dramatic as fuck, both Psychic Wound and Morning Star.
Yeah.
Tell me about picking those two songs for videos. Tell me about, how you discovered that you loved acting so much, because clearly there's a ton of acting going on in there.
Yeah.
And then I also heard this crazy story that maybe not all of the blood in Psychic Wound is fake.
You did your research. I think I have so many projects because I just like to perform and act, and I'm theatrical and I need somewhere to put that energy. So the singles they just seemed like the right songs. I was like, okay, these songs seem like the best representation of the record. So with Morning Star, I already knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted it to be a one-take video. I knew what I wanted to wear. My really dear friend Netta, who works with Muted Widows, we'd wanted to collaborate for a long time, and we finally felt like it was the right moment. It was great having her on set. We did both videos in one day, which was so intense. As soon as they were about to start filming, I started my period. So I started bleeding as soon as I stepped in the center, and I was like, okay, this is creepy.
There's a presence in the room. We're not alone.
Yeah, it was definitely that kind of vibe. And as my dear friend Dylan Carlson says, the gods need blood. And I was like, word, dude, you're right. So we did that video, and then for, Psychic Wound, yeah, there was definitely some period blood in there. And then I cut myself on that white altar that I was like performing on. This is like a scar. It's pretty deep. So the altar that we were on, it had some like grooves in it, and I cut myself like all over my arms. I was like covered in blood. So it did feel like it was a proper ritual between the two videos. It felt like something beyond me was happening, not in a bad way, just like, oh, this is intense.
I want to talk to you about an amazing quote. I was listening to you talk in another interview, and you were talking about the topic of creating art and finding your place within the artistic community. And your words, instead of trying to tear down something that's already built, put your energy into creating your own community. If you have a vision, you can make anything happen. That's amazing. Can you elaborate on that for me and how that applies to your own journey?
I don't try to fit into other people's worlds. I don't try to tear down machines that are already built. Like, for instance, the bro machine within the metal community. I'm not like, oh, I'm trying to find my place here. I'm like, this sucks. I'm going to create a whole new world. That's my fucking world. And if y'all want to be involved in my world that's really sick and very inclusive, then you can come over here. I think that we can create our own world. And I have created my own world, and I'm very proud of what I've created. And I like to think that it's a welcoming place for other creatives to feel encouraged and supported. It's easier, and it's better to just create your own shit than try to tear down something that you essentially can't really tear down that's been there for so long. You know what I mean?
I think that's amazing. So many people, especially on the internet, with everyone being a friggin' keyboard warrior. Yeah, they just spew hate and negativity to try and tear other people down.
Let's be real. people that have the time and energy to do that, they probably hate themselves. They're very jealous. They haven't found their purpose in life.
Yeah, so screw those jerks. Let's talk more about you. Let's stop
Yeah.
giving them airtime. You've got so many active projects, and I will quote you again, over 100 unreleased albums at least. When you sit down to start writing and creating, do you always know exactly what project you're working on, or is that something that reveals itself more organically over time?
I do know. I don't know. I think it's something I'm meant to do. And I've definitely had people criticize me and be like, well, if you do that labels and this, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. That's not why I do what I do. My calling in life is to reach my highest form of expression. That's what makes me happy. That's why I do it. I'm not doing it for any motherfuckers, and I'm not doing it for money, not doing it for even recognition. It's because it makes me happy. And I tend to get really fucking bored, and I need creative shit to do, and I need to constantly reinvent myself.
I love that you not only refer to them as projects, but personas.
Yeah, it's like a part of, as one of my friends whose record I was working on said, you kind of have multiple personality disorder. I was like, something like that.
You've literally climbed mountains in the time that you have, that people spend an entire career, attempting to and never achieve. It's really wild what you've already accomplished.
Thank you so much. So kind of you to say. I think for women specifically, like especially in like Hollywood and shit, if you get to a certain age, there's like an expiration date. Same with like models and actors and all that shit. And I just want to break that fucking stigma. That's such bullshit. I literally just feel like I'm in my 30s and I feel like I'm just getting started. And I know so many other artists that are in their 30s that are just figuring their shit out and feel like they're also just getting started. So I fucking loathe that shit. And with capitalism in place, it's really hard to like make your dreams come true. And a lot of these people that make their dreams come true have fucking rich parents. If you look at a lot of celebrities and pop stars, you can see that their parents are all fucking millionaires and billionaires. And that's why they were able to be successful or start a business. It's like, fuck off. To really make your dreams come true as an artist, it takes a long fucking time, a lot of hard work and trial and error. And if people, I feel like sometimes people look at what I'm doing and they're like, oh, was she so lucky? I'm like, bitch, I've been out here busting my ass for over a decade. So I earned everything that I do, and I worked really fucking hard for it.
You just struck a massive chord with me. I need to loop back and talk about something here. Yes, the expiration date is insane. One of my dearest friends in the world, she's in LA making her career happen, and people are looking at her differently to the point where she feels that she has to lie about her age sometimes because of this imaginary expiration date as an artist. One, that's fucking insane. Two, you bring up an amazing point. And we'd be touring and we'd be commenting on this because we'd see it everywhere, is that bands and musical projects kind of became the new sports and dance competitions for parents to like pool money into and to like fund their kids' careers and to buy them artificial press and, magazine ads when they're in no position to be getting those. And it's really frustrating to see, like, I hate to point the finger, but like kids of celebrities who have like very little true musical or artistic talent getting fucking billboards in Hollywood because, of who their parents are. That's such a real thing, and it frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, but I feel like anybody cool like knows they're not real. They're like, this is stupid. And it all comes back to like your fan base. Like, I have a solid fan base because I've built relationships with them, and it's like, that's where it's at. You got to like connect with the people that give a fuck about your music, and that takes time, and that takes years, and that takes touring. And I don't know, like these inauthentic people or people whose parents have money, like you can smell it from a mile away. It's not that hard to see, you know what I mean? But it is kind of frustrating.
Let's wrap on what's going on now. We're here to talk about King Woman and Celestial Blues. Release is coming up. What's the big release plan? What does the future hold for King Woman? And what's getting back on tour looking like for you right now?
Well, the record comes out on the 30th, and I was like a little bit nervous about shows and shit. So we're just doing a few. We have 3 at Vitus. We have 3 in Oakland and then 2 in LA. And I was like, I don't know if people are going to come, but I think the LA ones are sold out. So that's good. I'm just excited to get to connect with people again. And I feel like, just getting to emote and connect with everybody in the audience. I think everybody kind of went through it the past few years, so I think it's gonna be really fucking emotional. I'm pretty selective about who we tour with these days and what shows we play and what festivals we play, but we've gotten some really cool offers with some artists that we really love, some like label mates and stuff like that. So slowly just, you know, figuring out what the plan is for next year, but I would really love to go to Europe if that's possible. So yeah, just excited to see what comes next, I guess. Don't really know what to expect. So
Well, I know exactly what to expect. Like 11 more records from you in the interim, and a million projects on the go. Kris, I absolutely love chatting with you today.
Yeah, you as well.
You fucking nailing it with the insight. I hope everybody checks out the new King Woman record, Celestial Blues, July 30th, Relapse Records. Thank you so much for hanging. Anytime you're up in Toronto, come on down to the Banger studio. Would love to have a chat with you in a proper studio setting.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.